Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Field and Garden Podcast. It is your friend Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I am really glad you're here. And I am so happy to welcome back returning guests and super good friends, Steve and Gretel Adams of Sunny Meadows Flower Farm out in Ohio. Hi guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Oh, it is my pleasure. And so friends, before we jump in today, we're talking about the flower farm and life. There is just no telling what you may hear about on here today. But we are just going to have a great conversation about what the flower farm and life is all about. But before I do that, if you are new to the podcast, welcome aboard. And if you want to learn more about the work that the Gardener's Workshop is doing, head on over to thegardenersworkshop.com. We have an online garden shop. We have an entire library of online courses. We have schools about flower farming, growing in hoop and greenhouses, which is what these guys are instructors for, as well as flower farming school with Dave Dowling. And there's just a whole library over there, friends. And there's a ton of free resources, video guides, blog, and you can learn about our new shopping app, the Gardener's Workshop Live Shop. Yep, friends, we have an app. You can download it from your app store. Join me on Fridays, see our harvest. And if you are watching this on YouTube, this is the beginning of the setup behind me tomorrow that I'll be sharing the 411 on these different flowers, and you can join me and have a front row seat to it. So join me Fridays at 12 noon Eastern time inside the app, and we can have some fun. All right, Steve and Gretel, let's first off, you guys introduce yourself and tell you where you are and what y'all are doing. So for anybody that may, that one person that may not know who y'all are.
Yeah. So I'm Gretel.
Hi, I'm Steve.
Steve Adams. Yeah, we're Sunny Meadows Flower Farm. So we're in Columbus, Ohio. We have greenhouses. So we have flowers like March through November-ish, do Christmas wreaths in December, and then kind of have a break from flowers blooming January, February. But we sell Dahlia tubers online, so that kind of helps fill the winter gap. This is our 16th year farming, which feels really crazy. I mean, when we started out, we were the young farmers, and now there's farmers a lot younger than us.
Now one of us turned 40.
Yeah.
So
that's where we're at. Yeah, so it started out just the two of us, on a quarter acre or whatever. I mean, when we started out with veggies and flowers, we had a homestead vibe. We made soap, we had pigs, ducks, chickens, we did a little bit of everything, but
we grew winter greens, spinaches, carrots, storage crops.
Yeah. So as the business grew, and we kind of got more serious about turning it into a business, flowers became our niche. I mean, we were Sunny Meadows Flower Farm from the beginning. So we kind of set ourselves up for that, I think, too. But yeah, so I think since year 7, we've been 100% flowers. And, it started out just the two of us, and now we have 25 employees.
Wowza.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we have a team that stays, full-time year round. And then we also have a team of H2A workers who are here for the season from February, end of February, beginning of March through November. So they're here for 10 months, 9 or 10 months of the year, and then go home for the winter. So that has been an essential piece of building the business and being able to have seasonal workers that are return workers. That's kind of where we're at now with the business. Yeah, we've got a team in the office, we got a barn crew and a field crew is kind of how it's separated out. But when it's a big day like today, we've got big orders going out tomorrow. Our grocery stores that we sell to are having corporate visits tomorrow. So we had the whole team in the barn making bouquets, everybody all together, even office ladies are out there sleeving and stuff. So, sometimes we're all working on the same project, even if we're on separate crews, usually during the day. So
tell us,
the most fun.
Tell us, before we jump into talking about this flower farm and life that y'all have chosen and we're living in, What are the different markets that you currently sell all your flowers in now?
Yeah, so florists are our main sales outlet. So we sell locally here in Columbus, but we also have once a week we do a route up to Cleveland and a route down to Cincinnati. So we're kind of throughout Ohio, and then we also ship flowers to florists across the nation. So florists are the biggest sales outlet, and then we do grocery store bouquets. So we have, I think, 11 stores we direct store deliver, and then we have one store called Heinen's, which is up in Cleveland, that we deliver to the distribution center. We have a farm stand here on the farm, so that's kind of our only retail outlet. We do ship some retail flowers, but we used to do farmers markets and do flowers for weddings and like take special orders and stuff, but we've kind of cut that out of the system at this point. So picking up the farm stand is sort of retail folks only option here, and that just has allowed us to focus on our other outlets.
So kind of review what she said. In the last 2 or 3 years, we've cut weddings, special event orders, and farmers markets to kind of focus
and
on
wholesalers.
And wholesalers to a degree.
Yeah.
And that enables us to focus on selling to the florists and then kind of using everything else up in bouquets and our retail market, which is the smallest percentage of the other two.
Yeah. And then we have like our dried flower sales. So all throughout the season, we're drying flowers. So after frost happens, you know, the quantity that we grow on is much less. So in the summer, we have 20 acres in production. We've got 17 greenhouses. So once frost happens and we're just in greenhouse production, you know, our volume is a lot less. So dried flowers kind of help fill that gap in the fall and into like holiday time. And then we get Christmas greens from a Christmas tree farm nearby, and we'll make, you know, with our like winterberry and willow and stuff, we'll make Christmas wreaths and planters and stuff. So our holiday open house is usually our final like push for like sales for the season. And then dahlia tubers are a really big part of the business as well. So right now we have 80,000 dahlias planted. So it's a lot of tubers to dig up in the fall. So we're working on getting the list ready. I know people are really anxious to, you know, start planning since places are like selling out and stuff. But we'll launch the Friday before Thanksgiving, which is actually, I think, the same day that our class
Yes,
with you too. Yeah. So that November 18th,
it's going to be a big day.
Big day for us. So the dahlia tubers are what help keep our like winter crew employed, and it also helps like with cash flow during the winter. But it is a huge, like we just built another cooler that's, how big is that cooler? 20
by 40.
Yeah. So
in that building.
Yeah, and that's for the dahlia tubers. So the dahlia tubers have really grown as a big part of the business, and with that comes, you know, having to be able to store them properly and having the team to be able to divide them all.
Right.
So, but for us, you know, it's been worth it to keep the greenhouses and the dahlia tubers. Our main goal is to have year-round work for people to be able to have better employee retention. So that's our main.
A couple of things crossed my mind is, first off, I think you're so smart to make your business year-round, because it is very difficult to find the right people that want to work with you, right? That want to do the kind of work that we're driven to do, to be hot and dirty most of the time, right? I mean, that's kind of like what we're all about. And not everybody feels that way. And then when you find that person and you have to say, go home for 4 or 5 months, the chances of them coming back are slim. And I just think that is so smart that you guys have really just found a way to offer year-round employment. And I know that y'all are fair employers. And I mean, we've had talks about that before, and that is so awesome. And so I guess I can just feel people thinking in their mind right now, like, what is it like a day in a life in Steve and Gretel? So like, what does Gretel get up and do every day? And what does Steve get up and do every day? I would imagine that y'all go separate ways on a normal work day, right? So kind of tell us what each one of you kind of, just an overview of what your area, what your day is like.
Well, we're lucky that there's two of us, right? So that we can kind of each have our own focuses and things that we pay attention to. And obviously there's an intersection in that where we're bouncing ideas off of each other, or she's helping me figure something out, or I'm helping her figure something out with planning. And so it does intersect, but it is pretty separate. And it's only been that way for 8 years or something like that. You
Yeah,
know,
in the
like,
beginning we all did everything together.
So the first 10 years we did everything together. So over the last 8 years, it's been more and more separate. And I think just as the business has grown, you know, I used to be very involved with the sales, like maybe one of the main person doing sales.
Well,
correct?
Up until last year you were the one doing the florist deliveries.
Right. But
so,
and then still making phone calls and calling the florist, you know, it'd be an argument. Who's going to call the florist this week? Well, I always lost that argument. And so I always called the florist. And
so we know who's in charge.
I don't really like the phone.
So up until last year, I was pretty much running the sales, or 2 years ago. And then over the last couple of years, I don't do any sales anymore. I'm still really good at it if I need to be, but I don't do any sales. I don't do the deliveries. I don't talk to the florists. And
so how it's kind of split up now is that he is sort of everything from
seed to harvest.
Yeah, to finished product.
And then she's from harvest to it leaving the farm, basically. And so, you know, we start every morning. The crew gets here at 7:30. We get out here at 7. You know, something that we don't work 14, 15, 16-hour days most days of the year.
I mean, in the beginning, we definitely did. I think that's something that we like to talk about now is like, if people are like, I'm wondering if I'm at the scale that I should like hire employees. It's like, for us, that was like a quality of life investment to like know that you're going to get done at a regular hour, not be out there at 9 p.m. with headlamps harvesting for market the next day. Like we definitely did all of that and like paid our dues in that way. And
it doesn't mean that we won't if we have to, but you know, with us having a large enough crew, the idea is that we get done at 4:30 or 5, maybe 5:30, but for the most part it's 4:30. We get done and that's the end of the day. And then the next morning we'll start, you know, and do what we need to do. So we come out to the office about 7 and kind of just make sure that everything that we had planned is still the plan and nothing has changed, or we didn't have any different ideas, you know, while we were sleeping. Because sometimes we do change.
Or after
it happens, yeah.
One of our favorite hobbies is to go like just sort of have a field walk and, you know, just like brainstorm about stuff. So there are times that the plan changes.
The plan does change, yeah. And so we'll make adjustments and then write everything on the board or put it into Evernote and print it out so the crew has their list. And then, you know, she has a meeting with the harvesters and every morning and talks to them about what each team is harvesting and how she wants it, whether it's for florists or for grocery stores, whether it's bunched or loose in buckets for bouquets. And so she has that meeting, and then the crew goes off and harvests until lunchtime. Now, all this being said, this is a July, August, September, right? So like during those months, the crew is harvesting until lunch. You know, there's enough on the harvest list that it's going to keep them busy until lunchtime. Other times of the year, they get done earlier, and then we just have to have a plan for when they're done harvesting.
Yeah, it's like right now we're actually in a routine.
This is my favorite time of the year because the morning is completely planned out. Every day is the same. And so we don't have like, oh, we're done harvesting at 9:30.
What
do we do now? Yep.
Yeah. And so like, it's just after lunch. I have a plan for them after lunch. And so they show up at 7:30 and they harvest and do that until
we lunch at noon.
And so that gives us time for her to make sure that all the florist orders are in line and that people know what they're pooling. And if we have any emergency harvests that we need, she's communicating that to people. And I am spending time on the computer or and planning out the next big job. You know, for me, it's important for me to be thinking a month or 2 months ahead as to what the big jobs are, what the big projects are coming up, and how I can be prepared for those projects, whether that is 2 months ahead or whether that is later this week or later this afternoon. You know, just my job is to prepare the crew so that they're ready and have all the resources and tools and everything they need to accomplish their job. And so I'm doing that until lunchtime, or I'm prepping beds or cultivating or something like that.
Yeah, so his team is in charge of greenhouse work, which means like starting seeds, propagating, that kind of stuff, planting, weeding, bed prep, cultivation, like everything that you
Keeps the
need
farm
to
going.
make the plants
Watering,
get
yeah.
to flowering, basically.
And they're
and
also
then-
harvesting.
Yeah, and then everybody harvests. The barn crew and the field crew both harvest. And then the barn crew in the afternoon we're responsible for basically turning everything into the finished product that goes out the door. So my job mostly right now is communicating what's going on in the field and what's available for sale, and trying to like basically figure out the numbers of like, what do we need? What more can we sell based on what's going on in the field? You know, if we already have this many bunches of something sold, then like, what can I sell? You know, like the grocers when they take cases of dahlias, like they're not color specific. So it's like based on what's sold to florists, they kind of get the first like priority. And then the grocers can kind of absorb whatever else like is happening for that week. And so that's what, for us, having those bouquets as an item is something that is a consistent item through the whole season, but what is in them changes week to week, just kind of based on what's sold otherwise. So, you know, if we have Lizzie's happening and they're going to grocery stores, but the florists buy all the white ones, well, then the grocery stores get all the pink and purple or something,
Right.
you know, and we can sort of, so basically like that's what most of my time is spent. Every Wednesday we send out a florist availability. On our Shopify store, florists can see 3 weeks out. So that's something that has taken a lot of practice of like figuring out, how do you project out that far ahead, like walking through the field and saying like, this is going to be blooming next week, and then this is going to be blooming the week after that, and in 3 weeks. Takes practice and
guts.
yeah. Yeah.
Lots of guts.
I mean, yeah, you have to take risks in that, or else you're eating those flowers at the end
Exactly.
of the day.
I mean, I so understand why airlines oversell their seats,
Yeah.
because people don't show up.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like I've been on flights where I got bumped, and it's like, I understand completely. I'll take another ride.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
I mean, and
get
things
it.
happen. Like we try not to overpromise stuff, but also I'm trying to sell as much as I can. So there's a balance. And like, you know, I think getting florists to understand that, like sometimes they get frustrated because they're like, well, last week that wasn't on the list and now you put it on the list. And it's like, well, especially when something's about to start blooming, you know, I've learned that lesson too many times of being like, oh, in 2 weeks that's going to happen. So like, I don't put something on the list until I see a bloom that has like happened,
Right.
and like flowers are being cut from that patch, because I would rather like have a few extra the first week and like have to put them on the truck. And like our driver, we do pre-orders, but we also had put extra on the truck, and he can sell at each stop, sell extra. So it's like, I'd rather have extra the first like week or two when something's happening than not enough. Because if you overpromise, like especially if the weather changes, you know, like I can't force something to bloom. Like that's what's been happening. Last week the weather was like fall, cool, damp weather. It was like fall, and it's the middle of August. So all of our summer crops just like took a nap, basically.
Yep.
Like nothing was happening. Everything this week needed a break. Like the straw flower, the celosia, the cosmos, like everything needed a break because nothing was happy with the weather last week. So like I'm always like playing with those numbers and working between the barn crew and the harvest team and like my office crew so we can figure out what's for sale. I also do all of the like crop planning stuff. So a lot of my time at this point is like Excel worksheets, which is like not what I thought would be happening as a farmer. But so like right now, like we just finalized our lily order, you know, ranunculus and anemones. What's coming in is different than what I ordered, which means I have to go back and change the plan. So like week 34 is what starts, week 32 is what starts the crop plan for the following year. So like we're already into the crop plan for 2023 as far as like the stuff we seed now is what blooms next year. So I'm in the process of doing like the spring greenhouse plan, which is something else that like we talk about in the class. But because we're trying to rotate crops and not put Lizzie's and Dusty in the same beds that they were in before, I have like an Excel spreadsheet. So we just ordered our Lizzie-anthus. That's another Excel spreadsheet. Let's see, what else was I doing? Oh yeah, trying to figure out what dahlias we're gonna have for sale for the tuber launch. So in order to do that step, I have to go through the field, estimate how many feet of something I think are blooming. And then based on our record keeping from last year, our average number of tubers that we get from a clump, like by variety. And then I have to make our dahlia plan for next year to make sure that like we save enough for ourselves and then like have a safety factor. And then that determines like what is for sale. We also do dahlia cuttings to help expand like, you know, some of the new varieties we might want to do cuttings of. So it's like we might want to save more tubers than others. So it's like a lot of numbers moving around. I think that yesterday I had like 6 Excel spreadsheets open and then he asked me a question and I was like, I just don't know if I can answer anything else right now. Just because I was so like deep in it, but
To be fair, I get that a lot.
but yeah, I think that
If the office ladies ask her a question, she's really excited to answer their question. If I ask a question, I have to wait for 15-20 minutes.
Well, that's because your question requires more detailed like thinking. It's
because it's
but
weird.
availability email also, like that's my, you know, one of my main responsibilities because we have an Excel inventory system that we've built. So all of our sales go into that system. So when I walk through the field and project what I think is going to bloom, then I also have to subtract what's already been sold over those next few weeks, like what's coming out of the system. Yeah, so there's a lot of complicated numbers floating around, but like that's why I like at this point, I like when the flowers need me. Like today, the orders were big in the afternoon. It was like time for bouquets. Okay, cool. Like I get to go and like touch flowers for the afternoon because some days it's not always like that anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Especially like winter time. I feel like it's a lot of office work, planning, enterprise budgets, that kind of stuff. So it's like once ranunculus blooms, we're like, yay, flowers need me.
And you know, you said it earlier on when you were talking that this wasn't what you thought you'd be doing as a flower farmer. And it's true. Jenny Love and I talked about this once. It's like once you reach the point where you have employees, probably more than 1 or 2 or 3, all of a sudden you're no longer out there being the doer every day. You're creating the what to do every day. And things like Steve talked about. So I mean, and when you get to your scale, holy cow, I mean, it's unexpected what you guys are doing now, right?
Yeah, I think it's good too. I've said this multiple times before, but I think I would get bored if I was still doing the same things I was doing 12, 15 years ago. And I just did that every single day. I went out and I planted a bed and we sold enough, barely enough flowers to make, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I like the change and the evolution of it. I don't know how much more it's going to change unless we hire somebody that understands farming and also can do spreadsheets really well, or you know what I mean? Unless somebody takes my job, then my job's not really going to change that much more. I'm just going to have more help, right? And so
Right.
then I can focus on other projects and other things. But I'm always kind of going to be the one overseeing the planting schedule and prepping the beds. That doesn't mean I'm doing it all, but I'm always going to be that. That's a constant.
But we did all that stuff though. That's like something I think sometimes when people are like new, they're like, oh my gosh, you guys are so big, like whatever. And it's like, but we did all that. Like we were in the dirt. It was just the two of us. We
Right.
were doing all of the planting and all of the harvesting and all of the weeding, like
And all the selling and all the
yeah,
delivering
like
and all the punching.
we went through those times, and now we have a team to help us out with that. And so like Steve talks about, you know, his job is to like develop the systems for something and then kind of figure out how to delegate that out, like how to pass that on. And so like, you know, even over the past few years, I feel like you used to do all the like bed prep and be in charge of kind of all of the cultivating. And what's happened is you've figured out the systems to say, okay, here's what like we expect to happen. Here's what I'm looking for, like teaching people to like have the eyes that you have to say like, okay, this bed needs cultivated now because it looks like this, or because it's about to rain, or because the plants are this size, you have to use this specific implement. And so I think figuring out the system, I mean, even recently you figured out the finger weeders on the Tillmore. And so it's like, now it's something else that like somebody else can take on from him now that he's figured out the system of like how to utilize this piece of equipment or how to implement this like new.
And two examples of that is, you know, we've got, our farm has 3 locations now. The second location that we've had for 8 years, 6 years, 7 years, I would have to be over there every day to kind of guide the crew on what to do. And you know, like she said, we have these H2A folks that come back every year, so they are more experienced every single year. But this year, they're coming to me and saying, hey, this field, and this field need watered. We should go over there and water that. Where before I would have to be over there saying, hey, let's water this, this, and this tonight or this afternoon. Now they're saying that to me and telling me what needs water. And so, you know, that I feel like all I do is delegate. You know, somebody said to me that they feel like they're an over delegator. And I kind of feel that way for myself as well, that I do overly delegate. I rely on that. Like sometimes there's like little things I see that I could do in the evening. I'm like, I just have somebody else do that tomorrow.
Well, it's also your evening time.
Yeah. But, and then another example is, you know, this third location that we have is we just tilled up 5.5 acres and it's all going to be woody production.
Finally, you're doing it. Y'all have talked about that.
We're doing it. We're digging. We've got the nursery plants in the ground. They've been in the ground for 2 years. We're digging them up and spreading them out over there in the next few weeks.
It's official.
Awesome. But my crew has done most of the work. You know, they've needed me to help line up the beds and kind of say how you know, we're doing everything at 8 foot. Everything, all the rows are 8 foot apart. So they needed my guidance in helping set that up. But they're doing all the work. They're moving the tractors over to those fields. They're taking the equipment over there. They're doing that by themselves. So that is the evolution of my job, right? And it has evolved. You know, in the office, we have 3 amazing people.
And a bookkeeper.
Yeah. But, you know, the office has never been better. Even though we lost a really amazing person that we wish we still had, you know what I mean? And so the office is just flowing and it's smooth. And, you know, that's where you can kind of step back and feel good about the job that other people are doing. It feels good, you know, when you can set them up, give them the resources to succeed, and they can succeed, that feels good.
You
Yeah.
know, being a self-employed entrepreneur farmer doesn't mean that we have to work from sun up to sundown and
Exactly.
suffer. And you know what I mean? It's like I get a little annoyed sometimes, some people that just imply that that's the way it is. But in fact, that is not true. You know, of course, we are not on the scale like you guys are. Our goal is that we work from 6 to 2.
Mhm.
5 days a week, not
Mhm.
working on weekends. You know, and I find that the greatest perk is also the biggest downfall, is that we live where we
Mhm.
work. And you have to be, I just draw that line in the sand. It's like I don't go out across that driveway to the work area unless I need to get something, you know, to take back across the road here, because you're not supposed to work from sun up to sundown. And I think y'all done just an amazing, and y'all are so systematic, you know,
Yeah.
which is the secret to the success, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well-
we're pretty protective of our Sundays.
Um,
So like we might work 1 or 2 Sundays a year, and that's like
during tulip season.
tulips
peonies.
or like
Well, you
tulip
have to.
picking or something, you know, but like Sundays are the day where it's like I'm gonna sleep in and we're gonna
Right.
I
And I
like
think
do
your
a
people,
massage or something, you
Yeah.
know, like he's
And-
gonna play soccer or whatever. Like it's like we have worked that into, you know, the schedule, and we do work on Saturdays, so we are working 6 days a week. On Saturdays,
During the
that's
summer.
my day to get ready for Monday harvest. And also I don't have anybody else in the office, so it's a day I can sit down and like focus on a project, like if I'm doing
Right.
planning and I need to like really have some time. The farm stand is open, so I do have one crew member here that like helps keep it restocked, and they also have been pulling Monday orders, which has been really nice to give us a jump start
Sure.
on Monday. And then his field crew is here, so they're harvesting sunflowers and lilies on Saturday, since nobody works on Sunday. And those are things that have to be, you know, harvested every day, but we try to just harvest really hard on Saturday so that we
Right.
can all take Sunday off. And that's also like if they need to spray the dahlias, whatever, that's kind of their project time too, where it's like it's not about harvest and sales,
And
it's
it's-
about like, you know, fixing everything that's broken or
The
Not
support
everything.
of all.
I
Well,
think something that's broken. Or,
yeah.
you know, it's the H2A crew that comes in on Saturdays, and they all want to work Saturdays because they don't have families and friends here. So
Right.
they want
Right.
as many hours as they can get. And it's also not to say, like, our hangout space is kind of also our workspace now that we have this nice barn, you know, so I do hang out here. And it's not to say that after I clock out at the end of the day, that my brain's not still going thinking about different ideas. Or, I mean, there's sometimes she'll be inside and it'll be like 9 o'clock at night, and I'll just be walking around the field or the greenhouses just observing. You know what I mean? And so I'm not giving a lot of physical effort into it,
Right.
but I'm daydreaming, or I'm planning, or I'm creating new ideas.
He also has like endless energy. So like I think that's something else, like if you're farming with a partner, like understanding that like you might be, you know, that you're probably different than them. Like I have a point where I'm like, I need to like turn off and like be done, where like he can be sort of like, he gets excited about like the planning and systems and stuff like that. And so he has endless energy to sort of like, you know, to be thinking about that stuff. Whereas for me, I'm like, I remember Mike and Polly Hutchison talking about that many years ago at a conference, of like being a couple that work together and just sort of having different like needs in that way. So I think just also like learning that about each other, where it's like, I do care what you have to say. I am like excited about it too, but I also like need to be turned off. I need to be off sometimes in order to have the energy to be on when I need to be. So
I learned a while ago not to lay in bed and start talking about ideas that are work related. I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and
And
it's
that's
so
what
true. It's so funny. I think that this is a common denominator for flower farmers. I mean, Dave Dowling has that
Yeah.
gift. That's me. And you know who I talk to is my sister, because you know we work together, and I mean, and we have family time together. I mean, our families are we have a big family. We're together all the time. She's like, we're not talking about that now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean we can't talk about it? I'm thinking about it now. So
Right. I just have this idea. Let me just say it real quick. And then
exactly.
we talk about
Write
it
it
later.
down
Let me
quick.
just get it out.
So that's what we have Evernote for. So that way,
Yeah,
like, put
it's
it, write it
true.
down, or like put it in Evernote. We could talk about it in the morning. So
That's very, very true. So, you know, I mean, y'all have just really given a great snapshot of kind of what the flower farm and life is for you guys. So if you had to say to somebody that is either out there thinking about becoming a flower farmer, or they've been farming and they want to scale, you know, they want to go down this road, what would you say the most unknown, surprising thing about what y'all have done has been? Whether it's, I don't know, I have my own list, but I'll let you say what you think yours is. The surprising thing.
I think that the biggest like game changers for us were going to 100% flowers and dropping like all of the other enterprises.
Yeah.
And hiring a team. I mean, I think like just not being afraid to like take those jumps, you know, where you're like, am I big enough to mechanically cultivate? Like that was another like game changer, where it was like we were out there wheel hoeing and like weeding by hand and stuff, and like choosing at 2.5 acres to mechanically cultivate with a farm all. And now that like system has really grown with the business. So we like, you know, chose not to use plastic or like landscape fabric. And, you know, that's something that's like a really big part of like the flower farming world. So I think those were I feel like those are my 3 big, like, well, we don't know how this is going to work, but we're just going to try it and see how it goes. And then
I think following your gut, like there is intuition and gut, and some people just don't have it. I would say that the problems that are the problems at the beginning, the weeds, the germination, the seeds, the harvest, the flower quality post-harvest, the issues, those problems, the bugs, those problems continue to be the problems the whole time.
Yeah.
The weeds especially, right? And so those, you keeping up with the beds, weeding the beds, is always going to be a problem. It's never going to not be a problem, but you learn how to deal with the problem and alleviate the problem as best as you can, or cushion the problem. But those problems,
proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. Those problems are always going to be the problems. The bugs. If you have bugs now, you're not going to not have bugs in 2 years. You know, they're going to be worse. And so just learning how to deal with the problem.
That's encouraging, Steve.
I know.
Well, the more your business grows, the more space you're growing in.
I mean, we're dealing with broad mites this year. We've never had a broad mite issue that we know of. And I know that I always tell people, you think you don't have bugs, they're there.
But it's like we figured out how to, like, with beneficials and, you know, with an IPM like program and spray like program, like we figured out how to manage the thrips. We figured out how to manage the aphids. Now we've got this new problem to solve, this new bug to figure out like what to do with. So it's like that's what he means of like it might, like there's always going to be new challenges, you know, like there's
always going to be the same challenges, just evolve.
Like we lost a greenhouse in 2014, I think. We lost a greenhouse to the weight of snow. And so that's something like this winter, we came home from Mexico in January, had an intense snowstorm. And because we have more greenhouses than we've ever had, and only half of them are heated, Steve and I were out there for 8 hours scraping snow off of greenhouses. So it's like, what was the problem in 2014 that caused this one, you know, because we didn't scrape greenhouses in time. It's like, we're still out there doing that thing and trying to figure it out and problem solve. And so now the goal is to try to add at least 1 heater to more greenhouses, so that if there is an issue, that we do have some way where we can melt some of the snow off of, because that was a long day of snow scraping.
To explain, what I mean is the problems are always the same problems that you're dealing with are always going to be there. You're going to be dealing with the same problems. You're just going, if you're going to succeed at this, you're going to have to figure out how to best deal with those problems preventatively, like she said.
Yeah, you adapt.
Yeah, and being adaptive, you have to be able to adapt in this industry, no matter what you're growing, corn, veggies, flowers.
True. I think it's being a small business owner. Around here, we compare it to being that you are nothing but a fire extinguisher. And to go into the day realizing that that's what you do, is put out fires all day. And that's what your job is, it makes you feel like you're not such a loser, right? It's like, why do I keep having all these problems? Well,
those are my least favorite days, by the way. Those are my least favorite days, the fire extinguisher days. But yes, I mean, she says that all the time. Like, I feel like all I'm doing is like alleviating problems.
that's your job. That's why, we're the boss. So first off, I want to tell all of our listeners that Gretel has graciously prepared a list of her favorite field annuals, which will be in the show notes. You can request it and we'll send that to you. And Steve and Gretel do a course with us. It is grow and cut flowers in hoop and greenhouses. And enrollment is in late fall, like in November. It only opens once a year. And y'all, they will explode your brain. They go from where to locate, what type might be best for you. They go through everything. Gretel, give us the rundown on like the 6 different sessions, the 6 different weeks of classes. Do you remember?
So the first week is about, like we were just saying, location, type, like, low tunnel, high tunnel, sort of kind of your options, thinking about utilities, that kind of stuff. Week 2 is about planning. So that's where we talk about our crop planning, some of our enterprise budgets. And I think we've done a couple like bonus sessions to go in the Q&As where we sort of went into more details, because in the class we just sort of breeze over enterprise budgets. But one of the Q&A sessions is specifically all about how that Excel spreadsheet works. So then week 3 is about spring crops, which is what everybody wants to learn about: ranunculus and anemones, stock, snaps. Week 4 is about summer crops. So Lizzie's summer into fall, Lizzie's mums, cabbage, that kind of stuff. Week 5 is about greenhouse management. So that's all the strategy stuff that we've learned, like the scraping snow I was just talking about. We talk a lot about ventilation. Yeah, just like bed prep, things like that. And then week 6 is about pests and diseases, which we found is always the most disheartening week for the students, unfortunately. But we try to teach everybody all of the things, all of the problems that we've learned through the experience of having the aphid explosion and trying to figure out what to do. But now, like I said, we have an IPM plan that we implement with the beneficial insects, which has really helped. Crop rotation is something that helps with disease, but we talk about all of that. And then we also talk a little bit about our soil steaming process, which is something that's helped us with disease management. So everything, it's 4 different scales. So we start with the beginner stuff of like, what if you were only planting, one planting, or if you only had unheated space, here's the planting weeks for the things that you could grow. But then we also talk about if you have heated space and you need multiple successions, like here's kind of all the weeks that we plant stuff. So that's how we have flowers through March through November, is planning out with the heated space and the unheated and the different successions. Like we have ranunculus from March through the end of May typically, or we have stock in the fall and also in the spring, like for the flower holidays. So a lot of it is also about like planning for those flower holidays. What can you have for Thanksgiving? What can you have for Easter and Mother's Day? Because for us, that's a big part of the season extension, is being able to hit those floral holidays. Because in Ohio, we're zone 6A. So it's like we wouldn't be able to, in our regular season, a regular outdoor season, if you start with like herbaceous perennials and stuff, might be June through October or something. I think with, with tulips, you have some stuff happening in May. But yeah, so the greenhouses are an essential piece of like getting in early with customers, having holiday flowers, And like, yeah, like we
You
were
didn't
talking
mention
about, like,
dahlias. You
employee
do talk
retention.
about dahlias also, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, because
Okay.
we do dahlia cuttings. We talk about having dahlias early and having dahlias late. So like
Okay.
we typically have dahlias through Thanksgiving. So I think that they're actually in both weeks, in the spring week and in the
Okay.
summer week.
So
There.
if you want to learn more about Steve and Gretel's course, you can just check them out at the garden. The link will be in the show notes, but over at the Gardener's Workshop in our library, you can learn more about that and even sign up to get on their wait list. And when you're on the wait list, that means you just get a lot of great stuff like this PDF. She just sends out some great resources and support stuff. Well, I really appreciate y'all taking a moment with us, because I know how busy you are, and I know this is a really, really busy time. And anything else you want to share before we sign off here?
Yeah, I guess just to the flower farmers out there, good luck. We know Augustitis is real. So if you're tired now, it's normal. If you're just
Yeah.
starting out and you're feeling like, oh, I'm so exhausted, it's like this is the time of year where you learn a lot about yourself and like what you're capable of. That's why I like farming, is because I feel like every year you kind of go through this challenge and learn more about your willpower. We always say September is the game we've been practicing for all season. So that's when like everything is in full bloom. It's your last chance to make as much money with the field crops as you possibly can before frost happens. So we usually have to have like a pep talk with the team to say like, 6 more weeks until frost is coming. Like, we know that you're tired, but like it's the end is near. If you're sick of cutting zinnias, like the end is near, so just kind of keeping that cycle in mind. And then, for us, typically when spring comes and flowers are blooming, it's like you're sick of doing all the winter stuff that you were doing and you're ready
Right.
for like full on flower time. So I appreciate the cyclical like part of flower farming, but yeah, right now is when you're really pushing through with that energy level. So just know that, it's 16 years and it still is like that, whether that's encouraging for people or not. But
I still feel kind of going back to what I said, I still feel the same way, like slightly overwhelmed, slightly
understaffed.
No, well, slightly understaffed, but slightly like incapable of doing what needs done, or unprepared. You know what I mean? Like I
You go to
took,
bed every night with more to do than when you woke up that morning.
I took a
That's the
couple
problem.
weeks off from cultivating at the other farm, thinking it's the middle of August, it's not a problem, and now I'm making up for it because I didn't cultivate for 2 weeks, and so and it's looking out and seeing a field of weeds will make your heart sink and make you not
It's
feel
a
very
downer.
So just know that we're still
It
we're still
doesn't change.
going through all of that. So you're not alone out there. Yeah.
Well, I think that's really, really encouraging. And friends, if you are enjoying listening to our podcast, we would love for you to hit the subscribe on YouTube or to drop a review on whatever podcast app you're listening to this on. That really, really helps us. And friends, I highly recommend you check out Steve and Gretel's course. Even if you haven't gotten a house yet, this course will tell you whether you should or would you want to, and then how to do it. And I've even been told folks without houses learn so much about scheduling and planning. It's really pretty awesome. So I can't recommend it enough. So thank you guys so much for taking some time out. And I appreciate it so very, very much.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thank you. Ciao.